Welcome back to Your Chamber at Work. We're very pleased to be joined now by Eva Montibello. Eva is the founder of brand evangelist of Alpha E Consulting. I'll say that again, brand evangelist of Alpha E Consulting. Yeah, that was for my own benefit, not for the folks at home. But Eva, tell us about Alpha E Consulting and what is a brand evangelist?
Yeah, so I've been working in marketing and communications for almost 30 years at this point. And when I look at, a lot of marketing companies out there, they kind of have their packaged products. They have direct mail, and they have telemarketing, and they have this, and they have that. And a lot of people go in and really just say, okay, great, my company does this, and you're going to do that. As opposed to what I do is I really look at the whole brand. Where do they fit in the marketplace? Where are their competition? And where are there people where they can cooperate with, even though they may be in competition with? So a brand evangelist really looks at not only like the existing needs now, but what's the trajectory in which they're going to go in, so that they can really maximize, whether it be attention in the public eye. I've done some lobbying and passed a few bills, or if it's, building profitability around their business, or, even if they're a local public figure or a politician and they want some leverage in the community. So it's really looking at, the immediate needs, as well as having almost a scoreboard out there to continue to make sure that they're on a trajectory in which they want to be on.
So you give them the lay of the land more than just products and services.
Exactly.
And something that they can get anywhere, really. They can go
Exactly.
down the street and get that, but from you they get a different perspective of what's out there and how they fit in.
Exactly.
Is that
fair
to say?
How they fit in, and then also what's the marketplace that they can sell into? Because there are a lot of people that have amazing products, but I'm like, okay, well, 2% of the population are going to use you. Maybe you should look at it like this. Then 20% of the population are going to use you. So you just increased their marketplace by 200-fold or whatever. So it's, really looking at and helping to guide people into the best solutions for their business. So.
And that's not always readily apparent to somebody who's made that product, put their life into it, put their heart and soul into a certain service.
Yeah.
But they don't know exactly, well, I do things at flea markets, but how do I get better at that, and how do I move on and grow in whatever today's economy is, because it's changing all the time, isn't it?
Right, it's changing all the time. But I think the other thing is a lot of the people I work with are alternative health professionals, which is important, as well as artists that do amazing work. And these people just have so much passion and heart, and they love their work so much, but their ability to launch is limited because they just don't know how to get to the finer points of executing to sell. And that's really where I help people.
Well, you must be helping people, and I've told you before, I'm not speaking out of school. You're one of the most talented and creative people I know, and I think because of that, not because of what I feel about you, but because of what a lot of other people feel about you and your work. At the most recent Chamber annual dinner in June, you were the recipient of the Community Service Award. So how did that come about?
I've been a lifelong volunteer. My first volunteer gig was actually at the Oxford, I don't know if you remember this, up at 19th Ave, the top of 19th Ave, and I used to go in and read my children's Bible to all the seniors that were in there. That was my first volunteer gig of my life. And I really believe that community service is, for me, it's a necessity in my life. So when I started my own business and I became a chamber member, I went in and I, looked at Melissa, who everyone's in love with. I said, "Hey, what do you need?" And they invited me to the Winning Opportunities for Women conference, and now I'm a co-chair of that. I'm very excited. I'm very excited to really help women in business. It's one of my personal passions. It's always been one of my personal passions, and I think the older you get, I used to volunteer kind of on a whole bunch of different issues, whether it be homelessness or child abuse. But now that I'm really working on my business and trying to, build my empire, if you might, I'm really kind of looking at my contributions in a little bit of a different way. How can they both benefit me and the community? So really looking at it, it's almost like I have my own trajectory in mind. So I'm walking my walk in terms of the brand evangelist.
And why would that be any different, really? Than people you're trying to help, you should do it for yourself as well.
Right.
So you weren't too far from the Montibello compound up in the avenue, the upper avenue.
We are all on the Aves. the whole family.
But you grew up in Haverhill, and then
I
you
did.
sort of moved away from Haverhill for a while and explored
Yeah.
other regions, other adventures, and then you came back. So
Yeah.
give us a little
Yeah.
flavor of that.
Yeah, it was funny. I went to school at Salem State and then, had a long path to my master's degree at Simmons in Boston and had lived outside of Boston for years and years and worked for some amazing brands. A lot of my companies were bought by like IBM companies and then I also worked, my last job before I had my son was Panera Bread. I was doing marketing and business development for them and I really loved it and, having a great time. And then when I had my son, I looked at my life and I couldn't think of any other place that I wanted to raise my son but Haverhill. And I came back and I just have been in love with Haverhill ever since. I've always been in love with Haverhill, but I just never, knew I would end up back here. And I just love it more and more every day. And it's so funny because all my friends are in Boston. They're like, oh, we miss you. And I'm like, well, come up to Haverhill. So there's like a whole world, where, we're a cultural center now. We have extraordinary restaurants. There's lots of great museums and social things to do. And, we have salsa dancing and country music. I'm like, yeah, you really don't have to leave Haverhill if you don't want to.
You don't. And I've always said that. And I'm a townie's townie.
Yeah.
I didn't wind up in the book, thank goodness. Those were some of the older fellas.
Yeah.
But it's a place where, and particularly when I was in public life many years ago, you'd hear people mumble and grumble, oh, Haverhill, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Go find someplace better.
Exactly.
And I mean in a way that's affordable and comfortable and has its great parts. We have our chewy, crunchy parts,
Right.
That kind of crunchy urban center that's getting much better as every year goes on. So once you solve that, we have the greatest land area, fifth largest land area in the state.
Right.
There's so many assets to Haverhill, and we're finally realizing it. The one thing I used to hate hearing was somebody saying Haverhill's a hidden gem. Why are we hidden? I know we're a gem. Why are we hidden? So I think a lot of people, and especially a lot of the newer people, you're talking 15, 20,000 new people that are in Haverhill at least, that are seeing Haverhill in a much different perspective than somebody that grew up here, all their different than my perspective.
40
and
years
I love
ago.
The place. Yeah. So, it's great to get that perspective from people, and I find things even to this day that I say, gee, I didn't know that.
Right.
I didn't know this was here. Or, so that I think it's going to be a good challenge for Dugan.
Yeah, exactly.
to get the word out that, and that's what the chamber does.
Right.
Really, it promotes, accentuates the positive, doesn't it?
Exactly.
And I think everyone's been and you've been very active with the WOW conferences.
Right. But I think the other thing that's really different and distinct about the Haverhill Chamber is, like, I've had almost every member of the team come up to me and say, what do you need? Like, what are you doing with your business? Have you thought about this? I have, and at different times, business ebbs and flows. And at one of the times when it ebbs, I must have had a look on my face. I'm very transparent. And I walk in and they're like, what's going on? I'm like, I need some more business. And immediately the team just sat down with me and they're like, okay, let's talk about this. And it's interesting because, like you said, sometimes with my own business, I get stuck myself.
Sure.
And it's really that kind of community aspect. But then they're like, buckle down. They're like, okay, great, let's talk about business. Let's talk about who needs your services. So there's a beautiful balance in having like really, really nice, kind people, but having really the connections to get like me and other chamber members where they want to be.
Well, Eva, this goes by like a flash in the pan,
Yeah.
doesn't it? And so we are down to about a minute. So what's the next big projects on Eva's plate?
Yeah, so, I have a master's in communications, and I really think that, I actually know that communications is the foundation of everything. And something that I've been wanting to work on for a long time, it's a subsidiary of Alpha E Consulting, is really looking at communications around relationships. So I'm starting a subsidiary called Be Delicious Dating, and really like how to help people get confidence and really communicate better around what they need in relationships, and really identifying, what are your hangups in relationships and how do you move forward? How do you identify the perfect person for you? How do you make sure you know what you want? And the whole thing came about because I went through a breakup, and so my first free course is called the heartbreak protocol, 10 easy steps to get over a heartbreak. So, really looking at, my next phase, I'm great at marketing and helping people make money, but I think at the heart of the matter, I really want to have more love in the world. And that's my next project that I'm excited about.
Well, it's kind of a big project.
I know. Go big or go home.
Well, Eva Montibello of Brand Evangelist of Alpha E Consulting, it's always great to have you here. I'm glad to have you on this side of the camera than the other side, although you do a terrific job on the other side.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you.
Well, that's all for this segment. Next up, we'll be talking about some of our nonprofits here in the greater Haverhill area. Stay tuned.